The coffee tasted off that morning, metallic, like it had been brewed in a rusted pipe. I sat in the car outside our son's school, engine idling, windshield wipers dragging across glass slicked with Boston rain. The traffic was barely moving. Horns inched forward behind me. My son had just run inside, his hood still half up, backpack bouncing. I took another sip and grimaced. Not burnt, exactly. Just bitter. That's when the text came. Unknown number. No name. No subject. One photo. I hesitated. Then tapped. The image loaded slowly. It showed Emily, my wife, at a café table I didn't recognize. She was leaning forward, smiling. Not the smile I'd seen over cereal boxes and laundry baskets. This one was soft. Private. Across from her was a man in a black apron and a beanie. His hand was reaching across the table. Her fingers curled toward his, not quite touching, but closing the distance. A timestamp hovered at the bottom, today, 8:12 a.m. I stared at the screen. My first instinct wasn't rage. It was stillness. Like someone had pressed pause on the morning. The traffic noise faded. Even the rain quieted. My thumb hovered over the screen. I hit delete. Not because I didn't believe it. Because I did. I placed the phone on the passenger seat, then reached for my thermos again, more out of habit than need. The coffee still tasted wrong. She'd said she was skipping breakfast that morning. Just grabbing my latte on the way to work, she'd said, tying her scarf while I packed our son's lunch. No time for anything else. This wasn't the first time. The cafe had become a ritual. Not ours, hers. Emily, who used to hate coffee. Emily, who once told me baristas were just bartenders with foam. Now she couldn't start the day without her morning latte. I thought of how she lingered at the door lately. How her eyes darted back at the clock. How she said the barista remembered her order, like it was some charming sign of city life. I reached for my phone again and opened the Notes app. Thursday. 8:12 a.m. Emily. Unnamed cafe. Seated with barista. Physical contact implied. I stared at the text for a moment, then hit save. Then I drove home. The streets were slick with light. Boston looked gray and lived in, bricks darkened with rain, steam rising from sidewalk grates. The kind of morning where people bury their faces in scarves and avoid eye contact. Emily had already left for work. The kitchen was clean, but her travel cup sat in the sink. Lipstick on the rim. She never remembered to rinse it. I stood there a long time. I remembered how, months ago, she used to let the mornings stretch. How we'd split the breakfast shift, her flipping pancakes while I sorted vitamins and lined up lunchboxes. How she used to hum to herself, sometimes nothing at all, sometimes Fleetwood Mac. Now it was all movement. All schedule. All exit. I didn't confront her. Didn't call. I sat at the dining table and opened the laptop. Reviewed the shared calendar. She had a client consult at 10 o'clock. Nothing about a stop at a cafe. Another sip of cold coffee. Still metallic. Still bitter. I walked to the living room and stared at the wedding photo on the bookshelf. The one with us on the bridge in Newburyport, her veil caught in the wind. She was laughing in that photo. Not like the one in the cafe, but a real laugh. A full one. I picked it up. Not to throw it. Just to feel the weight. Then I put it face down. We met in a bookstore on Boylston. She was browsing a display of travel essays and complaining, loudly, to no one in particular that every cover had the same typeface. I laughed. She looked up, arched an eyebrow, and said, "Design matters." She was magnetic like that, sharp but playful, always aware of how the world responded to her. I loved it then. Maybe I still do. We built a life of shared momentum, late-night dumplings in Chinatown, refinishing old furniture on the weekends, staying up too late binging old noir films with cheap wine and tangled blankets. Even our fights had rhythm, loud, brief, forgiven before bed. When we got married, we said we'd never lose our rituals. We kept some of them: Sunday French toast, Friday trivia nights with friends, handwritten birthday cards. But the rest, like most things, got softened by real life. By work. By parenting. Then came the reset. Emily's words, not mine. "I just need to feel like myself again," she said one morning while folding laundry. "Like, in my body. I'm not unhealthy, I'm just foggy. I need clarity." I supported it. Of course I did. That's what good husbands do. She started walking to a café near her office in the mornings. Not Starbucks. A local spot. Independent. Organic. She told me the barista there, Jake, really knew his craft. Said he could tell where the beans were grown just by smell. I smiled and said, "Sounds like a superpower." She laughed, kissed my cheek, and left with her thermos. But something shifted. The walks turned into workouts. The lattes became sacred. She'd leave before I got out of bed, then return buzzing with language I didn't recognize, micro-rituals, cortisol regulation, self-sourced identity. She stopped eating breakfast with us. "Coffee keeps me centered," she said. "Solid food too early makes me crash." At first, I accepted it as a phase. I'd seen her go through cycles before: art phases, health kicks, short-lived obsessions with DIY kombucha or watercolor painting. But this was different. This one kept expanding. Her phone became a second limb. She used to leave it charging overnight in the kitchen. Now it slept beside her, face down. She told me it was for morning alarms, but she never used to need one. She started muting calls when I walked into the room. Her laugh, once open, uninhibited, became something smaller. Tighter. One night, I noticed her texting well past midnight, curled up on the couch. She said it was work. Client in LA, she claimed. Time zones are brutal. I nodded. Went to bed. I began noticing new names on our credit card bill, mostly under $20, Elm Street Roasters, Blue Drop Café, Third Mug. Same block. Different names. Each one charging her card multiple times a week. Once, I offered to bring her coffee while she got ready. She looked at me like I'd just kicked her. "No offense," she said, pulling on her earrings, "but it's not just about the drink. It's the process. The walk. The quiet. It's where I feel good." I said nothing. Later that week, our son spilled juice on her white sweater. She flinched, not angry, just startled, then disappeared upstairs. I followed a minute later to apologize. The door to the bedroom was slightly open. She was texting. Her face was soft, smiling into the glow of the screen. When I walked in, she jumped. Locked the phone. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just decompressing," she said. "It's been a week." I nodded. "You can talk to me, you know." "I do," she said. But her eyes were elsewhere. That's when I started writing things down. Not obsessively. Just enough to make sense of the shift. Times. Places. Patterns. I noticed she always left the house between 7:35 and 7:40. Always returned at 8:30. Never missed a day. I checked our shared calendar. Nothing was blocked out. No meetings, no classes. Just morning latte. Every day. I reviewed our bank transactions. She'd tip generously, sometimes 50% on a $4 coffee. Once, she bought a gift card. $100. For a man whose name she barely knew. A friend of ours, Rachel, made a comment at a dinner party: "Em looks amazing these days. Whatever she's doing, it's working. She's glowing." Emily laughed and said, "Jake says the same thing." Rachel blinked. "Jake?" Emily coughed. "Oh, the barista. It's a joke." "Kind of." She changed the subject. I changed nothing in my expression. But later that night, after she fell asleep, I checked her texts. Her phone was unlocked. Most of the names were ordinary. One was saved as J. Supply. Inside were messages like, "Your eye should be illegal. Same time tomorrow. Missed your laugh today." I didn't respond. Didn't breathe. Just took a photo of the screen. Sent it to my own phone. Then I turned it off, placed it gently on the nightstand, and lay beside her like nothing had happened. I didn't confront her. Not after the text messages. Not after the late returns. Not even after I watched her step out of that café one morning with Jake, the so-called barista, laughing like she didn't remember how to smile that way at home. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I documented. The day after that sighting, I bought a new binder. Plain black. I labeled it June budget in case she found it. Inside, I organized my timeline, screenshots, receipts, calendar inconsistencies. I printed credit card charges and annotated them, who she claimed to be meeting, what she actually bought, where the charges came from. I cross-referenced her location history from our family plan. On days she claimed to be working from home, her phone had pinged 2 miles away, in the neighborhood where the cafe sat like an open secret. Still, I said nothing. But silence is not an action. I called Matt, my best friend since college. Corporate lawyer. Level-headed. I told him I needed a referral. Someone who wouldn't flinch. Someone who could move quietly. He gave me the number of a Boston family law attorney named Elaine Finch. I've sent 2 clients her way in worse shape than you, he said. Both of them came out steady. We met the following Thursday. Her office was in the Leather District, sleek, quiet, full of warm-toned lighting and clean lines. She offered coffee. I declined. Elaine listened without interrupting. Then she said, "You're doing exactly what I'd tell you to do, only better. Keep it emotionless. Keep it precise." She laid out the structure, document everything, focus on custody, don't confront until you're ready to move. I told her about our son, about Emily's changing moods, about the way she barely looked up when I spoke these days. Elaine nodded. That child's your compass now. Let every decision point back to him. She gave me a list, financial disclosures, proposed parenting plans, evidence logs for potential court, notes on emotional behavior. Courts reward preparation, not outrage, she said. If you act angry, you look unstable. If you act cold, you look strategic. That night, I started a new file on my laptop, custody_documents_v1.pdf. I reached out to my brother, Drew. We don't talk often, he teaches music in Vermont, always floating somewhere above practical matters, but he was direct when I told him. She chose her path, he said. Your job is to choose one for your son. He offered to visit for a weekend, stay with us to observe. Not as a spy, he said. As a mirror. You'll need someone who knows both of you. He came down 2 weeks later. Watched how Emily flinched when I mentioned the word routine. How she checked her phone when I talked about school drop-offs. How she called her gym sessions meetings. She's not gone yet, he said as we walked the river trail near our house, but she's already left. I wrote that down. Word for word. At home, I started setting boundaries. I stopped offering to pick up her dry cleaning. I stopped asking if she wanted tea before bed. I answered her questions plainly. Never cold. Just enough to show I was no longer cushioning her lies. She didn't notice right away. Or maybe she did, but thought it was indifference. She mistook discipline for distance. I installed a Ring camera near the back door. Quietly. Just to see when she left. I began saving our text exchanges in a backup folder. The tone shifts. The deflections. The meetings that conveniently aligned with charges from Jake's cafe. I created a separate calendar for our son. Marked his piano lessons, school events, dentist appointments. I printed it and pinned it in the kitchen. Emily said, "This feels formal." I said, "Structure helps him feel safe." She didn't argue. 2 days later, I heard her on the phone in the hallway, whispering. "I think he knows," she said. Then quieter, "No. He hasn't said anything. That's what scares me." That night, I pulled the wedding photo from the drawer. The one I'd placed face down after receiving that first text. I set it on my desk and stared at it. Her eyes in that picture were alive. Mine were wide open. I placed it in an envelope. Not to burn. Just to store. I needed it out of sight. But not gone. Elaine and I reviewed the first draft of the parenting plan. It granted me full custody during the school week, alternate weekends, and final decision-making on healthcare and education. Emily would have liberal visitation but no control over residency. Elaine said, "It's strong. It reads like it was written by someone who doesn't need to hurt anyone to protect everything." That was exactly the goal. One evening, Emily came home late again. I was at the dining table helping our son with a school project, constructing a cardboard skyline of Boston. He was beaming, proud of his crooked towers. She walked in, paused, and said, "You two look very settled." I smiled gently. "We are." Later that night, I added the moment to my file. Monday, 7:48 p.m. Emily observes distance. Confirms contrast between shared time and isolation. It wasn't petty. It was measured. It was preparation. I wasn't gathering tools for revenge. I was building a foundation to stand on. The confrontation was coming. Not yet. But soon. And when it did, I would not yell. I would not flinch. I would simply lay it all down. Emily walked through the door with her latte in hand, same cup, same lid, same self-satisfied expression like the world had rewarded her for waking up. She stopped short when she saw the table. At the center was a single folder, sealed in a clear plastic sleeve. Next to it, our wedding photo, face up now. She looked at both, then at me. "What is this?" I didn't answer immediately. I waited until she set her cup down. "Sit," I said, not unkindly. She didn't move. "You're scaring me." "I'm being very calm," I said. Which is more than I can say for what I've been feeling these past few weeks. Finally, she sat. Slowly. Hands tucked in her lap. I slid the folder forward. "This is a proposed custody agreement. Drafted by my attorney." Her lips parted. "Wait. What?" "I'm not asking for your reaction," I said. "I'm telling you what's next." She stared at me for a long beat. "What are you talking about?" "You, Jake, the café. The meetings you take in your gym clothes. The late-night texts. The muted phone calls. The receipts. The way our son says you smell like cinnamon before dinner. And the way you've stopped looking me in the eye." Her face changed at the name. That was her tell. "I didn't cheat on you," she whispered, though even her voice trembled with the weight of the lie. "You did. You just didn't get caught the way you imagined cheating looks. No hotel rooms. No lipstick on collars. Just borrowed hours and unspoken touches." Her eyes filled, but I didn't stop. "I have everything documented. Times. Locations. Messages. The works." She closed her mouth, then opened it again. "How long have you?" "Since the morning I got a photo from someone I still don't know." "You were holding his hand over a cappuccino." Her gaze dropped to the folder. Her hands moved toward it, but didn't touch it. I wanted to scream, I continued. I wanted to flip a table, ask why, demand answers. But instead, I built this. I nodded toward the folder. "It's clean. It's balanced. It gives you weekends, holidays, generous visitation. But it puts our son first. Because unlike you, I never left." She finally touched the folder, her fingers resting on the edge like she expected it to burn. "I never meant to." "You meant to escape," I said. "You just didn't have the courage to say it out loud." She looked at the photo now. Us on the bridge. Her veil in the wind. That photo used to make me feel like we'd caught something rare. Now it felt like a trick of the light. "I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to disrupt your comfort." A silence filled the room, too wide to cross. "You'll move out within 2 weeks," I said. "I'll talk to our son. Kindly. Clearly. He'll know we both love him, but that love looks like truth, not avoidance." She nodded once. Not in agreement, not in surrender, just a kind of broken acknowledgement. I picked up the wedding photo, looked at it one last time, then placed it face down again. "That's not who we are anymore," I said. She didn't argue. She moved out quietly. No boxes dragged across the floor. No slammed doors. Just the hum of her car backing out of the driveway at 7:42 a.m., the same time she used to leave for her morning latte. Our son was eating oatmeal at the kitchen counter. He didn't ask where she was going. I told him she'd have her own house now, but we'd both always be here for him. He nodded, focused on his spoon, like he already knew. Children see more than we admit. The legal part went smoothly. She didn't contest custody. Didn't fight the plan Elaine drafted. We signed papers on a rainy Thursday, in a beige office with soft chairs and neutral smiles. She looked tired. I probably did too. The judge approved everything in one sitting. I got the house, the routine, the right to make decisions about our son's education and healthcare. She got generous weekends, fair holidays, a clean exit. There was no drama. Just closure. After it was done, I stood in the kitchen, staring at the counter where her coffee cup used to sit. The space looked right without it. Clean. Like it had always waited to be reclaimed. I kept the wedding photo in a drawer. Not out of sentiment. Out of respect. It was part of my life, just not part of who I was becoming. Mornings became quiet again. Still. Our son and I created new routines. He picked music while I made breakfast. We danced in socks on the hardwood before school. He asked to make pancakes one Sunday. I let him flip them, even when he ruined half the batch. We laughed so hard we forgot to clean the pan. I went back to reading. Back to running. Back to myself. The garage became my project. I cleared it out, repainted the walls, set up a small woodworking bench. Nothing fancy. Just enough to create. I built shelves for the basement. A table for the backyard. A little birdhouse for the tree in the front yard. My son painted it blue. The photo frame Emily left behind, once a wedding photo, now held a picture of us standing beside the birdhouse, our hands both holding the brush. We're smiling in the sun. There's no shadow between us. I started writing again, too. A blog, nothing flashy. Just short essays about moving forward without bitterness. I called it Measured Grounds. The name came to me one morning while making coffee. The real kind. With care. Fresh beans. A scale. Time. Precision. People found the blog. Slowly, then steadily. Comments came in. This felt like breathing. I thought I had to burn everything down to feel okay. You showed me another way. Thank you for not shouting. One message stood out. You helped me choose clarity over rage. I didn't know that was an option. I replied. It always is. It's just the quieter door. Some days are still heavy. But they're honest. I don't look for her car anymore. I don't check her feed. I don't run through hypotheticals late at night. I know who I was. I know what I did to stay standing. And I know what I'm building now. One morning, my son handed me a crayon drawing of our house. It was simple, just the two of us by the door, next to the little blue birdhouse. Above it, he wrote one word in big letters. Home.